Now, WoW has quite a few zombies in its universe, as well as a race and class who are essentially zombies themselves. So, for the sake of this video, anything that was once dead and brought back to life will be considered a zombie.
Good news, everyone! I think I've perfected a plague that will destroy all life on Azeroth!
Number 10 on this list will be Professor Putricide. Now, Putricide is on this list because he's a personal favorite of mine. I'm a huge fan of Futurama, and Professor Putricide is just a zombie Professor Farnsworth.
Good news, everyone!
Well, what is it?
What is what? Oh, right!
While there isn't very much lore on this guy compared to the other zombies on this list, I think he deserves a spot just for being hilarious.
Bad news, everyone! I don't think I'm going to make it.
Number 9, Stiches. Stiches is an abomination, a type of zombie that are created from the mutilated and disease-ridden corpses brought from the battlefield. They usually include more than 10 bodies sewed together to create its body. Each of these bodies must be infected with the Lich King's plague, so they will properly mutate when affected with the rituals to create the abomination. Abercrombie the Embalmer creates Stiches as a gift for Lord Elo Ebenlock, the mayor of Darkshire, sending him to terrorize the town. He tricks you into gathering the parts to build his abomination, dropping small hints as the long quest line progresses. Before Cataclysm, Stiches was not in an instance zone and would regularly kill low-level players who were new to the game and didn't know that it was part of someone else's quest, and would attack it by accident, as it was an elite that you had to help the guards kill. Stiches is also a playable character in Heroes of the Storm. Number 8, Flesh Titans. Flesh Titans are the most powerful constructs of the Scourge, built from the corpses of storm giants and flesh of women and children stitched together. It is said that their souls are fused together, internally bound within the foul prison of the flesh. What little knowledge there is points to the Flesh Titans as being far more intelligent than other constructs and possessing deadly electrical powers. The fact that they seem to have electrical powers points to a likely reference to the monster of Frankenstein, the monster created from parts of dead people sewn together and brought to life with lightning. There are only 2 Flesh Titans in WoW, Throm and Thaddeus. Number 7, the Val'kyr. Val'kyr are created from female Vrykhols who accepted the Lich King's gift, and are the only creatures other than the Lich King who can create new zombies without the plague. After the death of the Lich King Arthas, Sylvanas, the leader of the Forsaken, took them under her control in order to bolster the Forsaken's numbers, since the Forsaken are unable to reproduce naturally.
And more importantly, what are those Scourge fiends doing here?
War Chief, so glad you could make it. With the death of the Lich King, many of the more intelligent Scourge became unemployed. Those fiends, as you so delicately put it, are called Val'kyr. They are under my command now. And they are part of the reason that I asked to see you.
Get on with it, Sylvanas!
Very well, War Chief. I have solved the plight of the Forsaken. As a race, we Forsaken are unable to procreate. With the aid of the Val'kyr, we are now able to take the corpses of the fallen and create new Forsaken. Agatha, show the War Chief!
Have done here, Sylvanas. It goes against the laws of nature. Disgusting is the only word I have to describe it.
War Chief, without these new Forsaken, my people would die out. Our hold upon Gilneas and Northern Lordaeron would crumble.
Have you given any thought to what this means, Sylvanas? What difference is there between you and the Lich King now?
Isn't it obvious, War Chief? I serve the Horde.
Number 6 is the Blood Queen Lanethel. Lanethel was a blood elf who wielded the Quell Delar, a blade created by the Night Elves in the 5 Dragon Aspects. When Illidan and Prince Kel'Thuzad raised an army to defeat the Lich King, Lanethel saw it as the perfect opportunity to get revenge on the Lich King for destroying her homeland. In case you don't know much about WoW lore, the Lich King killed nearly 90% of the High Elves in the Third War, and 90% of the 10% who survived called themselves a Blood Elf in remembrance of the ridiculous number of elves that died. After the Lich King defeated both Illidan and Kel'Thuzad, he hunted down everyone who had challenged him with the two, which included Lanethel. While she did have a famous weapon, it wasn't really a match for Frostmourne, and the Lich King killed her and made her part of his army, like he did with most of the strong people he killed. She's involved in a quest chain to get her weapon and is the last boss of the Blood Quarter of ICC. Number 5. Teron Gorefiend, the First Death Knight. Teron Gorefiend was once one of Gul'dan's warlocks before Doomhammer destroyed most of Gul'dan's Shadow Council. Before becoming the leader of the Horde, Doomhammer also destroyed the former Horde leader Blackhand, who was under the control of Gul'dan. Doomhammer was also about to finish Gul'dan, who had been sleeping during the whole slaughter, but he spared Gul'dan, who convinced Doomhammer that he needed his power if he were to conquer Azeroth. Gul'dan promised to help the Horde by making some kind of army to add to the Horde, and he did. Teron Gorefiend, who was a former warlock and slain by Doomhammer, was raised again by Gul'dan and his ogre companion Cho'Gall, and had his soul put into a human corpse, who had been slain during the Horde siege of Stormwind with a new and enhanced powers. Teron Gorefiend was the first so-called Death Knight. How he ended up in Black Temple, however, I'm not sure. I mean, there is a quest with him in Shadowmoon Valley where Black Temple's at, but it's never really explained why he's in Black Temple. Sindragosa, formerly the prime consort of Malygos, was raised by the Lich King Arthas and became his most powerful servant. During the War of the Ancients, when 4 of the 5 dragon aspects put a part of their power into creating the Dragon Soul, Deathwing betrayed the other aspects and attacked over the Well of Eternity. The Blue Dragonflight, led by Malygos and Sindragosa, surrounded Deathwing and tried to attack him. But Deathwing used the Dragon Soul to kill nearly the entire Blue Dragonflight and sent Sindragosa flying all the way to Northrend, where she died while trying to crawl to Dragonblight. In her final moments before dying, she vowed revenge against all living things.
Suffer, mortals, as your pathetic magic betrays you!
Sindragosa is the last boss of the Frostwing in ICC, and the second hardest boss in the instance. Number 3. Kel'Thuzad. Now, Kel'Thuzad's story is too long to explain in detail in this video, so I'll just be giving the highlights. He was originally a human mage of Dalaran and loved reading into the dark arts. One day, he heard the Lich King Ner'zhul's voice from Northrend and gave up everything to sail to Northrend. Becoming Ner'zhul's agent, he created the Cult of the Damned, and is responsible for the Plague of Lordaeron, which was the first step to Arthas becoming the Lich King himself. He was killed by Arthas before the plague was spread. After Arthas became the Lich King, he destroyed Silvermoon and resurrected Kel'Thuzad in the Sunwell. The Lich King and Kel'Thuzad became BFFs, and bring Archimonde into the world. He saves the Lich King when Sylvanas launches a nearly successful attack. He stays behind when the Lich King goes to Northrend at his request, and is nearly killed in Naxxramas. But his soul works kinda like Voldemort's Horcruxes in Harry Potter, and his Horcrux, with his soul in it, was brought to Northrend where he was defeated again in Nax. Whether or not he's actually dead, though, is unknown. Number 2. The Lich King, Ner'zhul, Arthas, and Bolvar 4-Dragon. The Lich King was responsible for nearly all the zombies in the game in one way or another. Like Kel'Thuzad, going over the Lich King's whole story would take too long, so I'm going to sum it up. The Lich King was made by Kil'jaeden as kind of a punishment for Ner'zhul. Ner'zhul wasn't completely under Kil'jaeden's control and rebelled whenever possible. Arthas becomes the next Lich King and starts the Third War and creates the Scourge. After Arthas is killed, Bolvar becomes the next Lich King to prevent the Scourge from going wild, because the Lich King has a psychic control over all the zombies. And finally, number 1 on this list is Sylvanas Windrunner, the potential next Lich King.
I have not always been the Banshee Queen, and my people have not always been the Forsaken. Long ago, this land comprised the northern kingdoms of Lordaeron, ruled by King Terenas Menethil. Terenas had a son named Arthas. Arthas Even saying his name makes my body quiver in rage. This man-child, Arthas, took for himself a cursed blade known as Frostmourne. Through Frostmourne, Arthas killed his own father and raised this land along with every living creature in it. My own death came at the hands of Arthas when he and his armies sacked my homeland, Kel'Thuzad, and murdered my people. In his vast cruelty, Arthas severed my spirit from my body and raised me as a Banshee to serve in his Scourge army. A similar fate befell all that would die to the Scourge war machine. In death, they were reborn as mindless undead, but Arthas was not invincible. With each passing day, his power waned, his grip over the will of the damned loosening. It was when Arthas was at his weakest that I struck. And though the hour of his atonement had come, the worm managed to escape his fate, returning to the frozen wastes of Northrend. With Arthas gone, so too was the control he held over the undead masses of Lordaeron. After recovering my body, I freed the remaining Scourge that were left behind. From the cruelty and mercilessness of Arthas, the man who would be Lich King, the Forsaken were born. Our goal, our sole purpose, was to destroy the Lich King. We threw our lot in with the Horde, and began our journey towards redemption. Now, the Lich King is dead, and we have returned. The people who called this land their home in life do so in death as well. But the Alliance does not recognize our rights. They claim this land as their own, while attempting to invalidate the claims of the founders of this kingdom. I will never allow it. Never! Lordaeron belongs to the Forsaken, always and forever.
So as Sylvanas explains herself, she was killed by the Lich King and got her revenge, and as I showed with the Valks, she is raising her own army of undead now and is openly hostile to anyone that's not a Forsaken. During the War Crimes novel, which takes place after Mists and before Warlords, there's a side story with Sylvanas and her sister Illyria Windrunner, where they plan to kill Garrosh while he's in prison during his trial. During the interactions, Sylvanas strongly hints that she has plans of her own and would help Illyria get her revenge in exchange for turning her into a Forsaken. At the end of the book, Illyria decides to not kill Garrosh after all and betray Sylvanas, which sends her into a rage that never gets explored further. I put Sylvanas at the top rather than the Lich King because of a personal bias, and because I think she's going to do something interesting in the future.